Helen Zille has officially announced her candidacy to be the mayoral candidate for the DA for Johannesburg. Yay to her. Good for her. Not much of a shocker. She did hint at it. She did hint at it, I think, a month or two ago, that she might actually throw in her name into the race. But in any case, so she started already with her whole, I guess, PR, or rather interviewing tour around radio stations, TV, news channels. I'm sure she's gonna do podcasts as well. But yeah, you know, congrats to her. But in any case, two interviews that I actually saw. Okay, with one I actually saw like a couple of clips, but the one that I actually saw in full was the interview that she had with Newsroom Africa. So some of the things. Here's the thing. Helen Zille is, yeah, she is an achiever. She is a hardworking woman. I don't necessarily doubt that or anything like that. She's got good work ethics and so forth. And even in her interviews, and she has the ability to actually like answer questions properly. And yeah, she's also able to be, since she is a politician, she can politic and stuff like that. So just like any other politician, any other decent and able politician. And the questions that she was asked, she was asked even about her age, that people are saying like, okay, fine, what about the much younger people within the DA? Why aren't they running? Why aren't you giving them a chance and so forth? And she explained herself. She explained it that they have their own system, they have their own way of actually doing things within the Democratic Alliance, as to how a person gets to run. So therefore, a couple of people were interested, but at the end, she ended up being the best choice for the party, which is all well and good. Every party has its own kind of procedures and stuff like that. So yeah. The questions that I would actually mainly like to address, they asked about, okay, fine, the gentrification, because already in Cape Town, because of the influx of foreigners from all over the country, and particularly from Europe and the United States, there's been a lot of like gentrification that's been going on. So the price of, or the cost of living in Cape Town has gone high. When it comes to property and rent and so forth, it's extremely expensive for people to actually rent decent apartments and so forth. And because everything is now priced at, I guess, the same level as a dollar or a pound or a euro would actually go, and those currencies actually go a bit more further in South Africa than they do in those countries, right? And it makes it hard for South Africans to compete. It makes it hard for South Africans to actually be able to afford decent accommodation and so forth. And when Helen actually answered this question, and but yeah, when she answered this question, she actually mentioned the fact that she feels as if the gentrification, or rather we, the South Africans living in Cape Town, are gentrifying themselves because of, I guess, home improvements that some people do. Now we know that when somebody sells the property, if at all they want a certain amount that they want to sell their house at and so forth, normally the estate agent would actually tell you like, okay, go and improve this, go and add that, go and do, so forth. And sometimes people actually do, I guess, with the retirement money, sometimes people do improve the look of the house, the size. They might just add another story to the house. They might just add something. If it was a backyard and the house wasn't that big, they'll add something else, another room and stuff like that. If you want to use it as a business, they will make all those kind of changes in order to accommodate whatever it is that they're doing in the households. And yeah, so for Helen to actually say that it's the Cape Town residents who are gentrifying themselves because they're doing so improvements, and with improvements it means that the property rates do go up in those areas, and therefore people are buying those houses at that higher rate. But when you look at it, people in South Africa, all over the country, have been selling their houses, and yet what people in Cape Town are complaining about is not happening everywhere else. It's just happening in Cape Town. You know, they are Europeans, they are Americans who live in other parts of this country, right? Like Durban and in Gauteng as well, and so forth. There is an influx of them, but so far we have not complained much on this side about the cost of living. And so for her to relegate that, to actually gaslight Capetonians the way that she did, and to actually say, turn this around and actually blame the gentrification on them, spoke a lot and said a lot about her. You know, it says about her not necessarily caring or not necessarily having solutions to actually help and assist Capetonians, rather the citizens, the people who have voted the DA in. So they're not starting, or they're not going to have certain policies that are going to shield Capetonians from living the way that they actually do, and which is bad, which is really really bad. To have a politician not necessarily care about how their constituents are actually doing. In Spain, they actually had the same problem, and the government had to resolve it. They had to put a cap on, the number of properties that foreigners can own, and that shows that in those countries, the citizens are being considered. But if you're going to give a nonchalant answer the way that Helen did, and give a response that Helen did, that means that as a government and as a party, you guys are not willing to meet your constituents halfway. So therefore, you're leaving them in a very vulnerable spot. And at this point in time, Cape Town has gone down to a point where it's no longer just a racial thing. It's no longer just, black people or colored, or all the other races. And white people are also included. White people have the same complaints about the gentrification that is happening. And so if you are running to be mayor of Johannesburg, Joburg people are looking at that. And people in the Gauteng, people all over this country are actually looking at what's happening in Cape Town. And in as much as you can say that Cape Town is a well-run municipality, it's well run, the Western Cape is well run, and so forth. But when we see what the people in Cape Town, what the people in the Western Cape are actually enjoying, the rest of us don't want to be part of it. We just don't want that. And since you guys are the party that is in control and that is also allowing all of this to happen, it deters people from actually trying to vote for you, because you see that and you're like, you're gonna bring the same thing, and more than anything, you're gonna bring the same attitude, where you're not gonna consider us at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's gonna be about money. It's gonna be about who can afford what, and you're going to accommodate the money more than accommodating the people who actually vote you in. And so I want people to actually consider that in as much as, yes, there is an element of race, that as melanated South Africans we have not gotten over, right? But also, it's also about the follow-up work that people are also looking at. We're also looking at, people are looking at, what is it going to cost us at the end of the day? And if at all it means that higher cost of living, then yeah, you've just you've essentially lost people, and I can see them actually losing votes. But yeah, watch that interview. I think it's probably somewhere on YouTube, also saved up on Newsroom Africa. The second question that she was asked was about, towards the end of the interview, was about Gaza. And since the UN, I think it was past week, actually announced or said that what's happening in Gaza, it's officially, they're considering it to be officially a genocide. And when Helen was actually asked about that, she said that genocide is a very big word, according to her. Yeah, genocide is a very big word, even though there are scholars and there are a lot of people, even within the Jewish community, who've actually said that, yeah, what's happening in Gaza is a genocide, right? I mean, there's a literal man-made, created by human beings, famine that's actually happening in Gaza. Gaza currently has the highest number of child amputees in the world because of everything that's going on, because of the violence that they are subjected to. And it's happening right before our eyes. And to those people who are actually asking, like, okay, fine, but what does Gaza have to do with Helen Zille's run to be the candidate of being a mayoral candidate for Johannesburg? And the thing about it is that it's all about morals. People need to know and actually understand where you stand about something that has or is affecting humanity. Where do we stand? And I think that you also miss an opportunity, because as soon as you do something like that, and this is what I don't get it, because all of these parties, whether it is ANC, whether it's EFF, like, okay, I'm looking at the top three. They're not currently the top three anymore, because the EFF, MK, has become the third largest party in the country. But towards the elections, they tend to score on goals, right? Yeah, they tend to score on goals. So in the run to last year's elections, fine, it was a done deal that South Africans were tired of the ANC, and a lot were not going to vote for them. So it was to see between the EFF and the DA, how are they going to win? How are they going to take this win, right? Since the ANC has messed up and whatsoever. With DA, John Steenhuisen, for me, that's when he killed it, because he showed how unpatriotic he is when he went on CNN and actually started talking the same language that the ambassador to South Africa, the former ambassador, American ambassador to South Africa, actually stated that South Africa was holding arms, or had, I guess, given Russia arms. And as soon as he did that, because he was talking about having evidence and so forth, and more than anything, that was a cry, and that was a plea for America to actually look into that. And the thing about, like, the DA and John Steenhuisen and so forth, ever since then, for me, I've looked at them like sideways. There is no patriotism whatsoever. If you have issues, it seems as if they are determined to be a colony of America. They're determined to make South Africa a colony of America, right? Where America rules everything, and then they're here as the head boys, as the managers of South Africa if the DA ever wins. And that is a very big problem, because we are a sovereign state. And we like having the independence that we have. We don't want to be ruled. We don't want to do final decisions. We don't want to be told by other countries how to run our own country. Even with the issues that we have, even with the problems that we have, we don't want other states to actually intervene in what is happening in South Africa. So as soon as you start showing us that you have no loyalty whatsoever to us and to the country in itself, then that's a problem. You cannot have a party that is running for presidency in this country and have people, or rather having that leader, try to pander to a president in another country. It just cannot happen. You cannot do that, right? But yeah, that was an own goal that they actually scored with certain people and people who actually do follow the news, right? And then right now, the one thing that I'm looking at is the whole Gaza thing. Before she started, or rather said that she was going to run, made the announcement that she was going to run for mayor in Johannesburg. And there were a lot of people online when it was still a hypothetical question or situation. There were a lot of people online I saw, especially on X, people saying like, you know what, we have a differences with Helen and so forth, but at a local level, people don't mind her actually running Johannesburg. And what I've seen in like for the past 24 hours and ever since that interview on Newsroom Africa and that clip of when she was asked about Gaza, there have been a lot of people who are saying like, nope, because what you lose the Muslim vote when you don't consider that, because those are their brethren and they don't like what's happening in Gaza. Just because the world has in a way forgotten about it, other people have not, right? And especially with us having a case against Israel, people are not happy with that. So you've already lost the vote, you already lost the allies, and the rest of us who actually do think that Palestinians have a right to have their own state. You know, is it a two-state solution? Is it what? But what is happening in Gaza currently? It's disgusting. It's disgusting that not much has been done about it. Nobody's trying to save anybody. And yes, I'm aware that there are other conflicts that are actually happening, especially within our continent. And yeah, within time I will also talk about that. But right now, I just want to deal with this whole Helen thing. And then comes yesterday's interview. So she went on 94.7 with Anile. And yeah, there are clips. And there's a lot of clips because Anila asked a lot of questions. And a lot of some of the questions people are actually asking, like, okay, how is that relevant? Like, you've managed to not show us the purpose of why Helen is there. Helen is running, so therefore all stuff are being rehashed. The people saying like, we want to know what does she have to offer Johannesburg. You know, we have certain concerns. I hear also that they weren't able to get any callers to ask Helen anything. Well, firstly because Anila says that Helen Zille was late, so therefore that segment of question and answer between her and the listeners did not happen. But yeah, she was asked about the things like her past comments as to referring to people in the Eastern Cape who are migrating to the Western Cape and her referring to them as refugees. There's been a lot of things that Helen Zille has said that's been very controversial in terms of apartheid, in terms of, I guess, also even race relations in this country. And yeah, does it offend? Yes, of course. You are in a majority country with Africans, you know, with melanated people. So therefore, when you say certain comments, people are going to feel a certain way about it, you know. And I think for the most part, when it comes to slavery, when it comes to people actually discussing apartheid, and you're finding people of other races trying to diminish the feelings of people of African descent and other Africans and their own experiences with racism. Being dismissive does not change anything. You cannot mistreat people and then want to tell them at the same time when to heal, right? You cannot dictate such things. Just like you, if somebody does something to you and you never liked it, you never liked the feeling that it even gave you, you will still have that in your mind. You can have the, oh, I want to forgive kind of moment, but forgetting about it, you probably going to put that person at a certain distance, and which is what a lot of people who look like me actually do. Whether they'll put you at a distance, and as much as we can exist, they will put you at a certain distance, and they don't want you occupying certain spaces, and even political spaces as well. So that's exactly what is happening. You cannot mistreat people and then expect to tell them when to heal, how to heal, and so forth. So I hope that people get what I mean about that. But yeah, that interview has gone two ways. There's been people who are saying that Anela was unprofessional in the way that she actually answered the question. People were even more motivated to vote for the Democratic Alliance, and then the other people on the other hand were actually saying like she did a good job. Her questions were relevant because we want to know. We want to know everything. What did she mean by that? Saying that Anil isn't the spokesperson of black people, but she was echoing things that she's heard other black people have been saying. And this is like more than anything, this is one thing that you can never run away from, and the Democratic Alliance cannot run away from, is the fact that South Africans, black South Africans, have a fear, right? Have a fear of putting somebody who does not look like us in governance. And some of these things, that's the reason why the Gaza question was very much important. The gentrification question was important. We need to know where your loyalty lies. We need to know that you really do have our backs. We're not saying that give us free things or anything like that. We're just saying, are you a loyal person? Are you a president that we can trust? Currently, we don't have a president that we trust. As a country, we really don't. And so therefore, every time you run for that, we are looking for that loyalty, we're looking for that leadership as well. And we're also looking for people who are going to make the necessary and the important changes. So, yeah, it needs to needs to be going back to like the drawing board and actually reassessing this whole thing. But as far as I'm concerned, especially with the Democratic, as a matter of fact, I'm just gonna keep quiet about it. But yeah, people will vote however it is that they want to vote. And yeah, that's all that I have about Zille. Anyways, like, comment, share, subscribe, hype up my video. I still haven't gotten time to see how you can actually hype up some of these videos. But yeah, but in any case, you guys comment. I would like to hear all of your thoughts. If there's a little debate that we need to do in the comment sections, hey, so be it. But for now, later, apparently rapture is happening on the 24th, since today's rapture did not succeed. So yeah, maybe some of you are not gonna be here, Xasa. But yeah, guys, bye.